Here's an average global player,
Contact with enemy.
while here's an average Garena player. It's been more than a year since I left, but last time I checked, Garena is still the land of shotguns. However, there are people that still don't know how to use them properly yet, and I also kinda wanna make a shotgun tutorial for global players to learn from. Watch this video until the end and come out a better shotgunner in the game. Playing shotguns will force us to be more of an aggressive type of player, and I will not force, but politely ask you to like this video. Thanks. We'll be looking at the settings, sensitivity, loadout options, positioning, and a lot more. Let's get on to the video. First, let's look at the settings you need to be using. You're required to use at least 3 to 4 fingers if you want to be a certified shotgunner, because you'll be doing lots of movement whenever you engage in gunfights. I don't know if you're familiar with this setting, but shotgun hit reminder basically shows you how many pellets you land on an enemy, and they stay there for a while before disappearing. I personally find this distracting and unnecessary, so I'd recommend turning on damage number instead, with a low enough transparency for it not to be obstructive to your target. If you're using the ADS to fire button, make sure you set your shooting mode to hipfire under controls settings. Lastly, if you're gonna commit to playing shotguns, or at least to playing aggressive for life, you might want to use a higher FOV like 75 or max even, because it'll save your butt when it comes to close range gunfights where a lot of movement is involved. This way, you'll still be able to see your opponent than if you were using a lower FOV. For most of the time, you'll be using hipfire with shotguns, so you only have to worry about having the right standard sensitivities. You're in luck because I'm about to reveal the secret way to find your standard sensitivity. It's none other than hardpoint shipment. But for real, fix your FOV settings, equip the best shotgun build you have, and play a couple of games with it. You're gonna feel it if your shots are missing short or if you have too high of a sensitivity. Play until you feel like your swipes are effortless and you hit most of your hipfire shots, regardless if it's against a bot or not. This is what I personally did to find my standard sensitivities, and it really helped me not only with shotguns, because believe it or not, this will also help you with centering with guns like snipers and marksman rifles. When it comes to loadout options, you will need a good secondary weapon, and those times you need to finish a kill from a shotgun hit marker or whenever you run out of ammo. A commenter suggested using Renetti and building it for hipfire, so you can use that, but MW11 and J358 are good pistols as well. If you're more of a melee weapon enthusiast, katana or shovel are the best melee weapons I can think of right now. For lethal equipment, there's nothing wrong with using thermite, molotov, sticky grenade, or even trip mines. As for tactical equipment, you can use smokes or concussion, basically anything you can use to annoy enemies and close the gap between you and them. Use lightweight as your red perk, gung-ho or quick fix as for green perks, and for blue perks you can use dead silence or hardline. I assume if you're gonna play aggressive, you're gonna die a lot, so let's be conservative with our score streaks. Start with UAV, shock RC, hunter killer drone, and counter UAV. But if you get too good with shotguns, you can use higher score streaks such as Predator Missile and Sentry Guns. Here are some loadouts you can use. Feel free to share your own loadout down in the comments. Let's talk about precisions. I'm not talking about what you did on Valentine's Day, we're talking about map positioning. First off, play close range. I cannot stress this enough. Stay in rooms, in tight areas, corners, basically places where a shotgun would actually dominate. Don't challenge an AR user head to head from medium to long range, because I know you're smart enough to know what would be the outcome. 50% of the gunfight is all about positioning, so make sure you knock that down and have the advantage most of the time. Second, know all the high traffic areas in the map. You're only gonna get kills if you actually engage in a gunfight, so depending on the mode and the map, position yourself where enemies are gonna come to you and try to come from unexpected angles to annoy them. Don't use the same spot twice, because calmable players will expect you if they want to get revenge. This is basically map knowledge, and by now I'm sure you know where the spawns are and where most gunfights happen. You can go and stay inside that gray area and pick off enemies. Third, be sneaky. With dead silence and staying inside that gray area we talked about, you can use corners and tactically hide from your opponents, only to jump out when they pass by. Believe me when I say, there is no shame in doing this, because even pro players utilize this strategy when they're using a close range gun. At this point, you're probably familiar with centering already, but besides having your crosshair centered on where enemies might appear, if you're pre-aiming on a corner instead of centering near a wall, give yourself time to react and place your crosshair where you expect the enemy to be if they kept running in the direction they're heading. MIP Laser 5MW might be visible, but if they're rushing around the map, chances are they might not notice it. One more thing to keep in mind that shotguns have different spreads depending on how you build it, so the best way to center while using shotguns is by aiming at center mass of the human body, so that way you'll have more chances of landing those pellets at your enemy. When we talk about being aggressive, you might hear me say that you need to have crazy movement in order to win your gunfights. Crazy in a sense where your enemies will be having a hard time to track you, but you yourself should be controlled and you should know exactly where you're going. This is why having the right standard sensitivity is important when it comes to playing aggressive. With all the movement you have to do, you should be sure that your every swipe is precise. Of course, we can't forget about actual movement you can do in COD Mobile, such as the well-known zigzag move, followed by slide jumping all the while unloading your shotgun on the enemy. Jump peeking and B-hopping is useful too. At this point, just think of the most annoying movement and unpredictable moves you're able to do, and do that. Heck, even drop shotting with a shotgun is effective because players think that that is the last thing a shotgunner will do. But if there are two moves I want you to remember, it would be walking and running. Walk with dead silence when you're around enemies, and run away from AR users if you're at a disadvantage. So what's the fastest way to fire shotguns? I play with a 5-finger HUD, so use this method where I tap the ADS button, then the hipfire button in quick succession, and what that does is it cancels the sprint to fire animation, basically skipping frames and fires immediately. It takes a while to get used to, but it's useful for when you're rushing around the map. The easier method is to pull back your joystick and hip firing immediately. If timed correctly, you can get the same effect from the previous method, but all around will be doable for most of the player base and for you as well. If you know any other secret method, we would love to know, just comment it down below. For shotguns to use when it comes to ease of use, I'd say you can use KRM, then BY15, then HS0405, then the R90. In case you haven't seen the loadouts video, here are the builds for KRM, HS0405, R90, and BY15. These builds were suggested by Signu, his channel will be linked down below. That's pretty much it for a beginner shotgun tutorial. Have a crack at it if you wanna experience the power of using the most untouched group of weapons in the game aside from the speed up kill weapon perk. That's it for today's video. Make sure you leave a like and share this to a friend who's still a noob with shotguns. If you need to have an understanding on how to move better and when to use certain moves in COD Mobile, you can learn more about that right here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.